I started with the Miami Design Preservation League in 1977. Oh, hold it closer to my mouth. Like I said, I started with MDPL in 1977. I met Barbara. I became fascinated with Art Deco when I was living in Detroit. And when I moved to Miami, I saw a couple articles in the Miami Herald about the Art Deco movement and Barbara Capitman and whatnot. And I found out where she lived. She was living in an apartment on Venetian Way, I believe, correct? And I put together a poster, the one that you're seeing up here now, to show her that I was interested and I had some interest in doing a poster. So I took it to her and we had a long conversation, and she politely informed me that she was not interested in Miami's Art Deco. She was interested in Miami Beach's Art Deco. So this was never published. I still have the original, as you can see, on the right. And when I started with the league, I started doing their graphics. We did the bumper sticker, Save Our Art Deco Now. I did the original, their first logo. And keep in mind that I was an airplane mechanic and a welder, and I didn't really know much about art. But I loved, it just clicked with me. You know, the design, the feeling of it, and also the black and white. When I was a little child, I used to go to my grandmother's house, and I would look in the yellow pages, and I would look for the drawings of the heavy machinery, the steamrollers and the cranes and all that. And I was really just, for some reason, it was fascinating to me. So, and not really having much, I had no training in art. So the fact that the black and white and the geometric, and I also, when I was in Detroit, I learned how to, I was a draft, among my responsibilities was to draw blueprints. So I knew how to use basic drawing tools. And that's how, and the lettering, I've always been fascinated by fonts, and all of this is fonts that I either created or recreated. One of the first things I did was a t-shirt design. And I went to Rexart and got the Speedball screen printing kit. And what you're seeing on the left is not the design that you're seeing on the right. It evolved over time. I don't have the original artwork for the ones on the t-shirt. But we did this t-shirt design, and Barbara hated it. She said we all look like motorcycle gang people. So. And I also, in the beginning, I did just general graphics for the Art Deco hotels and some logos and whatnot. Andrew was very good to me. The first photo that you saw of me sitting there, that was me in the Cardozo Hotel. I had the honor of staying in the Cardozo Hotel, the top floor in the front on the top, and I paid like $300 a month rent with maid service. So it was, that's about 2 days parking fee now, I guess. All right, I had done a few posters, but nothing really clicked until Barbara had some event at the Plymouth Hotel, and when I saw the hotel, I just figured this would be a good poster. And little did I know that it was going to turn out to be so popular. We reprinted it, and the league sold it to raise funds. And among the people that Barbara knew was Richard Oliver, the curator of the Cooper Hewitt. And she got him involved, and this poster is now in the permanent collection of the Cooper Hewitt Museum. As a matter of fact, interesting here, I do have some notes, believe it or not. I did this, I used a T-square and a triangle and some basic drawing tools, and I did this poster on my coffee table. This was, I was living in Miami on Northwest 8th Street at the time. Then, Barbara managed to get a deal, make a deal with a local entertainment magazine called Day and Night. She convinced them to do to devote an edition to the Art Deco. And she comes to me and she says, well, how would you like to do a cover for a magazine? And I'm like, oh, well, okay, I'm really not that good at this stuff, but my main interest in Art Deco, I was fascinated by Maxfield Parrish. And Maxfield Parrish did a lot of covers for Scribner's magazine. And they were all, you know, although they were typical Maxfield Parrish, very elaborate, very colorful, it always came back to the simple idea that somebody was reading the magazine. So I figured, you know, I can do that. So what I did was I posed myself in front of the window and took the camera, set it on a tripod, and did the timer thing, and took a couple of slides of myself. And then I projected the slides on onto the illustration board and traced around it, and that's how I came up with the figure that's me. And this actually turned out to be one of my most popular images. I sold, these are later converted into posters. Then this was the first on the right-hand side. This, I wasn't aware of anything happening, any Art Deco Week or any Art Deco Weekend prior to 1978. We did the Art Deco Week in 1978, and it was a terrible disaster. It rained. It was in October, which is really not a good time of the year to do anything in the tropics because of the weather. It rained torrentially. The wind. Barbara had a friend of hers from Palm Beach, I believe, who was Mary Pageant, thank you. Lynn Bernstein, she was here with me in the beginning too, and her memory's a lot better than mine. She did these beautiful, colorful banners that we hung from the light poles. And by the time the storm passed, they had all been shredded and torn apart. The headquarters where the event was the Cardozo Hotel. The ceiling was leaking. It was not exactly our finest moment. Again, on the Art Deco Week, that's me and my wife that posed for this. All right, I can't really go much further. Excuse me. Without thanking my patrons. Jerry and Jane Goodman came into my life at a time when excuse me, I didn't have any money. No one had any money. And I was doing the black and white posters. I could do those because they were cheap to produce. And one day, Jerry and Jane came to me and asked me if there was anything they could do to help. And they paid to print all of my early color posters. And without them, who knows? Jerry passed away about 10 years ago. Jane is still with us, and I was privileged to meet her when I came into town. I'm sorry. Okay. The first poster that the Goodmans helped me produce was the Leslie Hotel. This was what the hotel looked like when I arrived on the beach. It was basically white with pastel trim. The lettering, again, I've always been fascinated with typography, and the lettering here is taken from their stationery. The Tides Hotel poster was never, I did the Tides Hotel, but it was never produced. They wound up using it for business cards. But these are two of the very early architectural posters that I did. All right, the black and white Victor Hotel was again, was something, it was one color, I could afford to do it. But the Victor Hotel in color that's like a 13 color xerograph, and there was no way I could afford to do that. And that was one of the first posters that the Goodmans helped me to produce. The color Victor, well, the black and white Victor, I like drama, I like exaggerated perspective, and I also have a fascination for racing seaplanes. So that's how all three of these elements wound up being combined. Again, the lettering on this is a little different than the poster that was actually produced, but this is the way it was originally done. The color was there was an event at the Cardozo, and there was a band there playing, period music, and one of the musicians, he just looked so period correct. So I had him actually pose for this image. And I also, I can't recall exactly which poster artist it is, but he used a lot of negative space. So that was another thing here. So, there's no ocean, there's no sand, there's no railing, there's no chair. It's just the simple elements. That was the other thing, too, that fascinated me about posters from the 30s, was that they were designed to, quote unquote, catch the man on the run. They were simple and dramatic and in your face. Again, with the Cardozo Hotel, the black and white one was one that I produced by myself. The color again was I think this is a 12 color xerograph that the Goodmans paid to produce, and this is kind of like my signature piece, the one that everybody seems to like more than the other ones. If you get one of the handouts, the story that was done about me in the Miami Herald, the first couple paragraphs elegantly describes what's going on in this poster. So if you have one of the handouts, you'll be able to read that. Okay, this is Art Deco Day at Hialeah in 1981. Another one of Barbara's PR coups. And the photograph on the left that's Dennis Russ on the far end, and Barbara smiling and waving, say, hey, look what I did, I got this together. Then the two folks next to her right, I don't know who they are. Any idea, Lynn? No, I think they're, and then that's me, the guy with the great thrift store pants and shoes and the Panama hat. So I was really into it at that time. And the folks on the right on the right from that, they're either the owners or the jockeys in there, and the owners and the trainers. And that poster I still have some. That's a silkscreen limited edition, and that we still have. Donna Zemo has some of these for sale at her booth. Then we'll go to Art Deco Weekend posters. The Art Deco Weekend '82 was a tremendous success. By that point, people knew what was going on. They were aware of the Art Deco district. We had a lot of momentum building, a lot of interest building in the architecture, Ocean Drive, and it was a big deal. There was huge crowds, a lot of traffic on the street, and it really helped to advance the district and the architecture. And by this time, like I said, Art Deco as a movement was taking off. And the fact that we had such a wealth of Art Deco architecture on South Beach, it just all came together. Then in 1983, this poster design was rejected. The Miami Beach Junior JCs decided that they were going to help. It was really tough back then because we really didn't, everything was just very difficult because there weren't enough volunteers, there weren't enough money. wasn't this, that, or the other thing. So the Miami Beach Junior JCs came involved, and the Goodmans paid to print both of these. But by the time the posters were printed and everything, they rejected the design because of the nudity. To me, I just saw the district emerging and becoming, and proudly emerging and being, you know, we have something to be proud of. All they saw was a naked woman, so, you know, what are you gonna do? And this is an oil painting. I had a friend of mine, Paul Stevens, who was a painter, and convinced me to get into oil painting. So this is something, again, everything you've seen up until now is all done on a board. We're using conventional paints and inks and whatnot. This was, like I said, this was oil painting, attempting to capture the speed and the movement of the era. Then the poster on the right, on the left, is interesting because when I showed it to Leonard Horowitz, he went, "No, Woody, don't do faces. I hate your faces." But I did it anyway. Leonard was a character. We weren't really close, but we did have a lot in common because we were both artists, and Leonard was an interesting character, to say the least. He was also very instrumental in everything that happened because he and Barbara were like a team. They actually drove across the country to different cities where there was Art Deco, and Barbara said it was like crossing the Atlantic in a kayak. So, you can't say enough good things about Leonard. He was a great guy. And Art Deco Weekend, 92 is the lifeguard headquarters. This was my Art Deco Weekend 92 with the headquarters, with the lifeguard headquarters, was the first poster I did using a computer. This was all done with Adobe Illustrator. These are all vector files. We'll get into that later. Like I said, this was my first. By this time, I was working at the Miami Herald, and they hired me because luckily, I got involved in computer graphics early, and they were looking to transition to computer graphics, digital stuff. So they hired me, and it was a great experience, probably the best job of my life. Randy Stano was the art director there, and I just can't say enough good things about him. Anyway, so this was done, this is a digital image, but I never really, we'll get into AI later. Then Art Deco Weekend 94 was the last one I had. I was living in North Carolina at the time. I'm still living there, but different address. And the idea was to have like an aerial view. And if I look real closely, you can see me and my wife and our dog down there somewhere. And now here we are back to the racing airplanes, the seaplane thing. When I was a child, I had a comic book, and there was one of the panels in the comic book was similar to what you're seeing here. There was a woman pilot on a racing seaplane talking to a guy who was actually up on his elbows up on the pontoon, and they were talking. And that image just stuck with me over the years, and you think, well, that would be cool if I could do that, but I never really had an opportunity to do it. So, without, I guess you could say on spec, I did the poster, and Mark liked it, and here we are today. But this is kind of typical of what I like to do. I like bold colors and simple concepts. And the other thing I like strong women. and I don't care much for cliches. So, you know, the cliche would be the guy sitting up, the guy would be the pilot and the woman would be sitting on the pontoon. And the story behind this is that when the conversation is over, he gets back in the water and swims ashore because he doesn't have a chance. So she jumps in her plane and flies off. Again, this Tony Goldman hired me to do some posters. By this time, was financially stable enough that the Goodmans didn't have to pay for anything. So most of these were paid for by the client. I was actually picking up commissions, and these were the two that I did for Tony Goldman. I don't think I did. I only did these two. And this was back in, I don't know, back in the days when dinosaurs roamed the earth. This is I put these two together because the one at the Avalon Hotel is the kind of thing I like to do. It's dramatic, it's simplified, there's no extraneous things going on here. Then I got interested in 3D illustrations, and I did that for the National. And although the juxtaposition of these two styles, I just thought were interesting. The National, both Avalon and the National were commissioned. In the Penguin Hotel, this is one of my, I did this just because I like the hotel so much. And the Penguin Hotel, I don't know what it looks like now, but it's not really Art Deco. It's like a style that came after. It's in some kind of industrial style.
Mid-century.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't know. I just love the idea of the penguin, and it seemed I didn't realize at the time, but a lot of people collect penguin stuff. So, and then OVO, I was commissioned to do this. This was the old Warsaw Ballroom. I don't know what it is now. It's been a couple different things. But I like, again, you know, the dramatic perspective, the airships. And again, the lettering. This is one of my favorites. It would be nice if the building actually looked like that. It's not quite that dramatic or long, and also like old cars. So this is one of my favorites. When I first did this, I brought it to Art Deco Weekend to sell. I had a challenge that if you could name all the cars, you could get the poster for free. One person got it right.
Can you identify him now?
No, I could hardly identify him a week after I did him. Okay, the Ritz. There's a lot of Ritzes around. The Ritz Hotel, the Ritz Plaza. Again, this was a 3D rendering. And then the Ritz was an all-suites inn in Ocala when I did this, but what is it now? It's like some kind of a rehab place for, for military people that suffer from PTSD. And again, you'll notice that the woman is driving the car, and the guy is coming. Society Builders, they commissioned me for this. They had several locations, and one of them was in Miami Beach, on the 1200 block, upstairs. And I kind of, at this time, I kind of like fell out of doing things on the beach, and from what I understand, they just closed. They didn't last very long. And then Waldorf Towers. This was Jerry Sanchez. Jerry Sanchez played to a mixed audience, to mixed reviews. He was good to me. Jerry was good to me. He always paid his bills, even though he ran into some financial difficulties because of something that happened in the stock market or something. But Jerry was good to me. I did the poster. I did a lot of advertising for him. He had when the Waldorf first opened, he had a club in the basement, so he did all the graphics for that. And Jerry actually owned what was then at the Amsterdam Palace, which is now the Versace mansion. So that was my first opportunity to actually go inside the building and see what it was like, and it was amazing. The rooms in the front were just astounding. As I was going through my archives, I found this line drawing, and this will give you some idea of what it was like when I was working on the board, when I was working with pen and ink and paints and whatnot. All the designs would be done like this, and then I would take them and get copies made, and I would paint them. But I never did that, and I don't know what happened with this. It's 1983, maybe, I don't know. Did it say 81? Okay. I don't know whatever happened to this, because I know we had an Art Deco Weekend in '81, and this is just one of those mysterious things as you're going through your archives. And I'm like, what is this, and where did this come from? So Lynn and I and Michael Knurg and a couple other people from back then, we tried to figure out what it was, and while we were talking about it, I converted it into what you see on the right there. And because Mike Knurg had a good collection of memorabilia from that era, I was able to reproduce the New Yorkers logo and the little top hat and cane.
It's also the logo of MDPL.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right here.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's the New Yorker Hotel. Yes, it was a tragic loss. But if we're going to talk about tragic losses, I don't have any part of the presentation for this, but I just can't help but going off on a tangent here. To me, the greatest loss that we ever suffered was the cinema. It was amazing. The interior was just astounding. It was probably the best theater interior south of New York. There were murals, and the color scheme was there, so it was so complete that even the scrims and the creek lights were there. Everything was like it just stepped out of the 40s. And when the preservationists, when Barbara started to bring attention to this, the owners, who will remain nameless, decided that they couldn't have this. This was a building, it was their property, and nobody was going to do anything with it except them. So the first thing they did was they tore down there was a tower over where the marquee was. They tore that down, claiming that it was damaged, it was going to fall on somebody. And then they gutted the lobby when you first came in to make a storefront. And it was, so that's about the way, there were some people that really did everything they could to prevent their buildings from being designated. But then luckily luckily or unluckily, however you want to think about it, some guys came from New York and converted it into Club Z. And Club Z was pretty true to the original design. The only thing they did was they took out the chairs and leveled the floor, so it turned into a disco. And I don't know how long they lasted. It wasn't very long, but
Where was this?
it was in the old cinema. What was the old cinema theater? The 1300 block of Washington Avenue. That large Vitrolite building.
The Brandt family.
The Brandt family. Then, among other things that I did, when you're an artist, you do whatever you have to do to put food in your mouth. So, I did a couple of color facade colors proposals. This is the old Murray Dixon office was originally in this space here, and MDPL operated out of this space too. And one of the most fascinating things about it was it had a really cool toilet, a black toilet that was designed by some famous person. I don't know. Do you know that?
No, I don't know the design. I remember the toilet.
Okay, that was a big deal. The toilet was a big deal. I think it's now in the Wolfsonian. And I also did, the Coronet was another building I did the color scheme for, and I also did the signs. All right, this is an interesting story. This book was my first big project as a designer. Laura Sawinski came to me and asked me if I wanted to tackle this project, so okay, I did. And among one of the things that I did, and as a matter of fact, the book is up there in the display somewhere. One of the things that I did was I created a type font to use in it. And it's been reproduced, I think it's been reprinted like 2 or 3 times. But you need to know that my fee was $100 plus materials. And even every time it was reprinted, nobody ever came to me and said, well, you know, that'd be cool if we dropped a couple bucks on you, but that never happened. The other thing too is that it was reviewed in the Village Voice, and it was panned. They hated it. Whoever the reviewer was just hated it. And among her comments was that the graphics were disco deco graphics.
Woody, what goes into the number 4?
What?
1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0.
I don't know. They probably didn't have that one. Probably didn't have that chapter. That's good. Nice catch. I'll have to fix that someday. I also did some work for the Fontainebleau. Greeting. We did a greeting cards for them. This was for. They did this. Spit it out, Woody. The image on the left was a card that they used for a New Year's party. And I was also interested in Cubism, so they came to me and asked if they could do a poster for the Chocolate Festival. I don't know if they still do that. So the image on the left was a card, and the image on the right was a poster. And I don't have any. I don't know whatever happened to them. And then I had a storefront on Washington Avenue with Ken. Later on, Ken Robbins came in and went into partnership with me. This was the second commercial or the second retail space to open on Washington Avenue. The original was definitely Deco. Marilyn Sandos had a nice antique store in what was then the Washington Storage, but it was tough, and it was really, and there was no money, there was no people. We didn't have. I can remember we had to make all the money we could during the season, which wasn't a lot, just enough to make it through the summer. I can distinctly remember one summer, it was July or August, something like that, we had gross sales of $500. I had to borrow money from my parents. So we tried, but the store was really nice. I had my posters in there, we had hand-painted t-shirts, we had printed t-shirts, we had Art Deco jewelry, Panama hats. It was a nice little store, you know, and the theme was Art Deco, so, but it was just never really, it never worked out. Okay, we're going to talk about AI. The image on the left is, again, a vector graphic done with Adobe Illustrator. And you think of that as a paint by number. And this is what it looks like without the color. So every object there has to be painted. So what I did was, I liked the idea, but again, you know, we got the nudity thing going on, and you know. So I had been doing a lot of AI illustrations. So I took my design, the design on the left, and I took it into AI and said, okay, I want you to convert this illustration into a painting. And if you know anything about AI illustration, it's you just don't punch a button and it's finished. It takes a lot of times. You have to redo it, and you have to tell it what you want. If it makes a mistake, you have to tell it to do it differently. So this is the image on the right is AI, and this is poster size. I never print. All of my posters, and including this one, is available on my Etsy store if you're interested. Okay. Also, I have my partner and I have a feline rescue, and we live in a small town in North Carolina called Youngsville. So I did these posters hoping to raise some money for the cat rescue, thecatfarm.org if you're interested. And this was all AI, and we tried to the town's two claims to fame is that we have the railroad track that runs through town is the same one that the Orange Blossom Special used to run. And we still do get freight trains come by. I built my house close to the railroad tracks. And also the farming, it was a farming community, mostly tobacco. And I produced these posters. I'm printing them individually, and I had high hopes, but it seems like the art market's not what it used to be. And I think I sold 3. None of them to anybody in North Carolina. And now I'm also writing fairy tales for adults. These are my first 2, partnered with my AI companion. And if you don't know what an AI companion is, you can look it up. So this is what I'm doing now. I've always been creative. I've always looked for things to do. I can't sit around and do nothing. So I'm blessed in many ways. And I want to thank everyone for coming. And if anyone has any questions.
What years did you live in the Cardozo? What year?
78 until they, it was 78 for a couple, 3 years. And then I moved, then they did a major renovation there, and I moved to the Victor.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. I moved,
Marilyn lived there too, a lot of people lived there.
right, yeah, Donna, you lived there too. You were in the same situation as I was. They closed the Cardozo and we moved to the Victor. And then after that, I moved to what was then the Oceanfront Apartments, which is, right, and we lived across the breezeway from each other.
Are the fairy tales in the shop?
Excuse me?
Are the fairy tales in the shop?
No, but there you can, if you take one of my business cards, there's a link to my Etsy store.
Right.
And if you don't have the card, it's Woody's. If you know about Etsy, just Etsy.com and just search for Woody's Collection. We good?
Are your other posters in your Etsy store?
Most of them, most all of them. That's what I've been doing. The ones that were done on the board are now digitized, and they're available there in different sizes. They're not just the full size. You get like 3 different sizes. Anyone else? All right. I really appreciate it, Mark. Thank you so much.